At what point in your Ironman training should you start swimming? Now, the swim on an Ironman triathlon tends to be the highest point of concern for pretty much every beginner triathlete. And for good reason, it's the first event. It is the event that most people have done the least in their lifetime. Everybody's been walking around, running around, and riding bikes since they were kids, usually. And it is the only event where if you stop doing it, you can actually die and drown. So there's a lot of fear around the swim, and I'd say for good reason, but in reality, I think that a lot of the fear around the swim is a little bit um, blown out of proportion, I'll say. And that is not to minimize your fear, that is to alleviate some of the stress that you may be feeling around this event. And so I have one client right now named Tom, and he literally asked me the same exact question 2 days ago as I was about to program the swim onto his training plan for the week and for the weeks to follow from here on out. Now, Tom is doing the Lake Placid Ironman with me this summer, this July, I think July 20th or 21st, whatever that Sunday is, either the 20th or the 21st, in July 2025 this year. And he started training at the beginning of January. So I've had him training on a pretty much only running and biking routine for the past 3 months now. Almost 3 months. It's March 10th. And now is actually the exact time where I, one, naturally wanted to put the swim on his radar, and two, he felt like this is something that I should probably be working on. So, my rule of thumb, and it all depends on how confident you are in the water. You cannot overemphasize water confidence. I like to start approximately 4 months before the race. And swimming is by no means a priority to me, nor is it a priority to most triathletes because of the fact that within a relatively short time, you can go from hardly being able to swim, 4 consecutive laps without getting out of breath or burnt out in your shoulders to swimming the full distance steady and slow and not having too much of a problem following that with now the bike. So here is the protocol. So approximately 4 months before your triathlon, assuming the same 30-week protocol that I run through most of my beginners. And you can get that 30-week protocol on my link in the description below. It is the Ironman Mastery Training Program. I like to start with just one session a week for the first 2 months. And once the weather starts to allow you to maybe throw some tests, open water swim sessions in the routine, and once you get to about a month and a half before the race, then we start to increase volume to the point where you can now do 2 sessions in a week. But for now, I just want to introduce the idea of when do you start swimming. And for most people who are fairly confident in the water, I would say 4 months before your race at one day a week for no more than an hour in a session. Now, what are you doing in these sessions that are about an hour? Well, I'm assuming you're fairly a beginner, and if you're asking this question, you are likely a bit concerned about the swim. So, from that standpoint, here's what you'd be doing in those sessions. And here's what I did when I self-trained myself for my first Ironman. Not even when I started getting coached and, you know, helped with technique and all that stuff. Your biggest bang for buck will be finding a 25-meter pool because a 50 is nearly impossible to find, at least where I am in New York. So 25 will suffice. And I want you to hit a 10 to 15-minute warm up where you're going nice and slow at a pace where you feel like you could pretty much do it forever. And then you'll just hit, after that, catch your breath, get some water, and then 30 minutes straight at a moderate speed. Again, nice and slow. Just really start to get a feel for the water. Take a break, and then you can throw some quick, like 5 to 10 minutes of technique in there at the end. Or if you want, you can work on your speed and just do 5 to 10 minutes of like fast intervals. And those fast intervals will basically recalibrate your mind as to what it means to swim quickly. And believe it or not, I didn't do any fast intervals for like the first month or two of my last swim training period in my Ironman. And when I was finally ready to throw some fast intervals into the mix, I was surprised by how fast I got in just those single sessions per week for 2 months. And I'm the type to swim at a nice slow 212 pace, which for those of you who don't know, pretty slow. I'll even swim at like a 230 if I'm like taking my time. Meanwhile, just so you all know, fast, like what I consider fast, people swimming at like 130 or less. And here I was thinking that I was super slow for like my whole like training season in the swim. And then I threw these interval sessions into the mix, and within those interval sessions I was like hitting 145 and like near 130 for just short spurts, like nowhere near like these pros that are doing that for the whole 2.4 miles. But you'll be surprised how quickly your body can adapt to moving in the water again. So don't underestimate yourself. Just get time in the water. And if it helps to mentally think of it like this, the swim is the shortest event, both in terms of distance and time that you'll be in that leg of the race. It's the first event, so it's the event where you're going to be the most fresh. And it's also the first event, so it's the first event where you're going to have the most energy, race energy, like the energy of everybody around you, the energy of the starting line, the music's playing, the crowd's there. It's going to be the point in time when you're basically at like peak energy, peak rest, minimum fatigue. So if it helps and you know that you have a time goal and you know what the time cutoff is for the swim, which, what is it, like 2.5 hours or something like that? 2 hours and 15, I don't know. You have plenty of time. You have plenty of time. You're going to be swimming right out the gate with people who you anticipate to be swimming at the same speed as you. You're going to be pulled by the current as long as, you know, you build up this comfort. If it's a wetsuit race, you have even more of an added benefit where like that's going to make you go faster, be more buoyant, and going to pull you along with the group. So the only way that you'll fail the swim, and hopefully this isn't like insensitive is if one, you are really uncomfortable with the water, your adrenaline starts making you, you know, go a little bit mentally crazy because, people are splashing and swimming really hard around you, and you basically lose sense of your race strategy. So the only reason why you would fail at the swim is if you burn yourself with adrenaline, throwing your race strategy out the window right at the start of the race. Or if you have a panic attack in the water because people are, you're swimming with a group of people. People are gonna like bump into you. They're gonna, you're gonna catch the occasional foot, the occasional hand, the occasional elbow, but everybody's catching them. Everybody's in the same situation. It's stressful. It can be stressful, very, very stressful, very adrenaline inducing, especially for your first race. But you're gonna be fine, especially if you give yourself enough time leading into the race to get comfortable in the water. And that's exactly why I recommend 4 months. Now, if you're the type to be very nervous, like more nervous than most people, you could start a little earlier. Or you can start still 4 months leading into the race, but hit more swim sessions in a week. Instead of one from the start, I would say two. But the only reason why I recommend one from way early on and none before that is because the biggest bang for your buck in terms of fitness is going to come from swimming and bike training. Like some of you're going to be on the bike for 7, 8 hours. You can shave that down to 6 hours if you train properly. You might be running for 5 to 6 hours. You can shave that into the 4 hours if you train properly. The swim, if you're a 2 hour and 15-minute swimmer, you might get it to 1 hour and 15 minutes. Like the margin for gain is minimal on the swim. That's reason number one. Reason number two is just the sheer volume of time that you need to get your body used to being on your legs. So it's just not a comparison. You're on your legs and on your seat much longer than you'll be in the water. So put your effort where it matters. Understand that the swim isn't the end of the world and you're not going to drown, and you're going to be able to finish the distance and you'll be fine. And despite saying this, I'm sure many of you are still gonna be pretty nervous about the swim. So if you are extremely nervous about the swim, this is where maybe I would invest in coaching. And I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about like maybe like a swim coach or joining a group. But um, when you overemphasize swimming, you can only devote so much energy and so much time into your training, especially since many of us are working people and many of us have families. So the logistics behind doing multiple swim sessions in a week is, just pure, brutally honest, a pain in the butt. Like you have to, pack your bathing suit, pack a towel, pack a change of clothes, maybe pack some flip flops or slides. If you're gonna do it in the morning, you have to make sure that you have like shampoo, conditioner, and soap, or time to get back home and shower before going to work. If you do it after work, then same story. Now you need to find like a place with a decent locker room where you can change, make sure that you pack all your stuff in the morning so that you have your change of clothes, your soap, your swim cap, your goggles, your everything, your flip flops to bring to the gym with you after work and then get home. Now, pools are heavily chlorinated, so now you smell like chlorine all the time, and um, you really don't want to go for a run or go for a bike after being in the pool because just like again, the logistics of it, it's not like in a race where you can hop out of the pool and you're already on your bike and you're moving. It's you're you hop out of the pool, you have to like waddle over to the locker room, like shower the chlorine off so that you don't like get chemical burns and chafing on your follow-up workout. So there's a lot of logistics to doing more than one swim session in a week. And for somebody like me who likes to make things as easy as possible for people to follow, for myself to follow, um, especially for those of you who work and have families and like I do, it's just it's too much of a commitment for too little of a gain. On the contrary, whether you work out in the morning or after work for the bike or the run, like you've seen my trainer set up over here in my office, right? It's like it's right here. Literally, put my bike shorts on the trainer. Get home, running shoes at the door. Like don't have to wear anything special for a run. Put them on, do my run workout. Make sure you fuel in a relatively responsible manner so that you aren't sabotaging your workouts, so that you can work out fueled instead of, you know, unfueled, but don't eat too much of a meal close to your workout. Like these are the little things that you're going to be doing anyway. But as far as like the logistics behind the rest of your training for the week, I I think it's dwarfed in terms of simplicity compared to swims. That's the final reason why, like, the less time you can devote to the swim, in my opinion, as someone who works all day, like 10 to 12 hours a day at a job, it's a no-brainer. So much so that my coach even told me last time, because I got a significant PR on my swim, and I think I probably did like 10 swimming sessions, maybe 12, before before the race. And I was like, yeah, I was not bragging, but I was like surprised. I got a pretty significant PR on my swim. I've never swam the 2.4 miles in whatever I did it. I don't know, like an hour and 30 something. And he was basically like, yeah, I mean, like the rest of the fitness that I accumulated from the many hours of running and biking carried me through the swim in terms of cardiovascular fitness, because running and cycling are so much more cardiovascular intense the way that I do them than swimming. So like that is the lion's share of benefit. And I'm sure if you ask anybody else, they'll probably say something similar, except for the crazy people who don't have to work full time and were high school and college swimmers who could swim like a 112 easily for like an hour and just bust out the 2.4 miles in an hour. But we're not those people. So that is a little bit too much of a ramble, but the key point in there being about the beginner concerns for when to start swimming, how much swimming, um, and then just a mental brain dump on you guys as far as like why that's the case and just things to look out for. So hopefully you found some value in this. Hopefully you didn't mind my rambling, and I will catch you in the next video.